Likkutei Torah, Shlach, page Mem Zayin, second column is Gimel. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe is explaining through the 620 mitzvahs. You have the Tarachamu, the Erd, that's the whole concept of a carbon. Shamarti v'naseh tzeni brings down the source of an animal, which is even higher than the source of a person, and so on. So he says, the mitzvah of tzitzis is shkula keneged kol ha-mitzvahs, is equal to all mitzvahs, like it says in Chumash. You should see him, or you'll remember all the mitzvahs. Like we know, the word tzitzis equals 600. With the 8 string, the heiksharim is taryag. So tzitzis itself reminds us of all 613 mitzvahs. What's the connection? Why tzitzis separate reminds us of all mitzvahs and not other mitzvahs? Because tzitzis has both things. It has a level of vushe v'sar. It has a level of levushim. It has shad and sar together, basically. Why? Ki Talus atzma prisa de malka is a level of levushim. The talus itself is the garment of Hashem. Like it says in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah, B'lamesh shenisata v'kadosh baruch hu k'shliach tzibur. It says when the Yomim Neiroim come, Hashem gets dressed like a shliach tzibur, like a chazan, and calls him Marsha b'chudush, and Marsha writes b'chudush halachas. He says, "U'b'sefer yashmi chachma sama kabbalah matzasi." The Marsha was a very big commentary in the back of the Gemara. Says, I found in an old sefer of Kabbalah that what does it mean? The sat of Kodesh Baruch Hu ba'eisius Talus levana. Hashem puts on a white talus. Shenitzat b'briyasa shalem, that he put on when he created the world. Like it says, Eita kasalma. He dressed. He says he made the light at the beginning of the world, right? Like a talus. Shemavik miseifa elam atzeifa, that shines from one end of the world to the nether. So he says, you see that the level of talus that Hashem is putting on a talus, which is the level of tzitzis, is the higher level of garments, which is even higher than Chochmah of Torah, he said, explained before. So you have like this. Remember you were speaking before, you have the very lofty levels, and then you have the way it comes through the hair, which is the limitations. What is the talus? Talus is makif, and then you have the chutit tzitzis, which are like hairs. So you have the hamshacha from the talus through the tzitzis. Kilamed beis chutim, because the 32 strings, 4 times 8, is lamed beis nesivas chochma, is a 32 paths of tzedakah, of chochma. The Gemara says that there's 32 paths of chochma and 49 chamishim shari bina. Right? We know that. But chamishim shari bina, 50 levels of bina, and there's 32 paths of chochma. In fact, by bina it says shari bina, the gates of bina. And by chochma, in fact, it says in Kabbalah that the word levonain is 2 words, lev nun, which refers to chochma and bina. So it says like this: you have the level of talus, which is the level of makifim. Then you have the way that tzitzis, the 32 strands, come into the level of chochma. What's a nesiv? What's a path? What's the purpose of a pathway? To go from place A to place B, you need a path. You have to go somehow. That you go from place to place. So all it is also up there in the lamed beis nesivas of chochma. It comes the pleasure into chochma, which is the level of Sidus Elyonis, the level of Sar above. What did Alter Rebbe explain before? excuse me, from the highest levels of Kedusha to come into world, it has to go through the level of Sad, because it's too great to come down as is. Finite world is already, even Atzilus is already limitation. 10 spheres, So in order for that level of Elokus to come into world, it needs the level of Sad. It's interesting, the Star Chagav, the Marsha, lived before the Baal Shem Tov. He's a very holy man. He wrote any yeshiva Baruch learns Marsha. But there's a word that the Baal Shem Tov said, if people would know the greatness of the Marsha, they would eat the dirt from his grave. That's what the Baal Shem Tov said.
Holy man.
Yeah. Like it says the hair of his head. That's why it says by tzitzis, the mantiz guru, you should remember through tzitzis, vasisem is called mitzvah. What does that mean? Shatir bechinas tchad. It should be the level of male. Mashpia ki beloy zadei knesses Yisrael bechinas mekabel. Because Yidden generally are speaking, are receiver. We're the wives of Hashem. Like it says, Vel Isha Shukasich. Avayidei, that through the level of tzitzis, Tia Bechinas Tchad Mashpia. You are the levels. In other words, when a person puts on a talus, what it means Kabbalistically is that now we take the makifim level of talus and we bring it down, not as Mekabel receiver, but we're making it happen. We're the mashpia. To bring down the level of makif into Lamed Beis Nesivas Chochma, which is a level of Torah. Chochma. K'may Menazal Pasik Torah Tzivalanu Meisha Merasha. Al Tikre Merasha don't need it as an inheritance, Elam Urasa. The kala, so to speak, the one that has kedushin. Sha'atayda nikra kala, because Torah is called kala. In fact, it says in Parshas Kisisa, Vayiten el Meisha kechaleisei. And Rashi says it's missing a vav. So like kekala, Hashem gave Meisha Rabbeinu the Torah like a kala. Va'esik b'Torah nikra bal Torah. And therefore, when you learn Torah, you are called Baal Torah. So that's the husband. So therefore, what's the avoid of a Jew? To bring down the makifim level of the garment of Talus into the Pnimius Torah level, which is the chutim of the tzitzis. And then, and that's why, and afterwards you put on tefillin. Afterwards you put on tefillin, which is binding the mind and heart to Hashem. How does that level happen? First through the talus. You bring down that level of makifim into Lamed Beis Nesivas Chochem. Then you can able to be mishabed the leaven amayach. That's only about Hashem. It's only about Hashem. That's why we learned halachically you put on the talus first, because tad v'sheina tad, more common, less common. But Kabbalistically, why do you put on the talus first? Because first you need to have the level makifim, then you have the premiums. The same thing Chassidus explains on Sukkot. The mitzvah of Sukkot begins at night. The mitzvah of Lulav and Esrog begins during the day. Why does one begin Sukkot first and then Lulav? Because again, what's the mitzvah of Sukkot? You walk into makifim the bina, as the Mitzvah Rebbe called it. And then you bring down the hamshacha of the Lulav and Esrog in all 6 directions. You mamshach the makif of Sukkot into all levels of world, and that's why the proper place of benching lulav is in the sukkah, because it's all the same. Yeah. Huh? Mikvahs, makif, all these things.
Where are we going?
Huh?
Where are we going with this?
Where are we going? We're going to the end of the Maimer. Where are we going with this? He asked the question, you speak about the mitzvah of tzitzis, yeah? Why does it say Ani Hashem twice? What does it mean now to do mitzvahs? Where it's going, you mean in a very practical level, what are we learning from this? That a person, when he does a simple mitzvah, like putting on Talus or wearing tzitzis, is actually mamshich, the highest level of godliness internalized into themselves. Into the heart. The 32 strands is lev, lamed beis, is the heart. We have to bring down the makif level, the makifim level, which is not only stam makifim, the highest of levels of makif, that Hashem dressed himself with the talus that created the world, the Mashal says in the early Mekubalim, and that level we internalize by doing the mitzvah. In other words, therefore, when you put on Talus and Tefillin, you should have a little bit more kavanah of what we're doing instead of whoop and that. In other words, instead of wanting to take it off before we even put it on. To get done with it already. So, this is the avodah that what the Jew has. And what we accomplish, we do a mitzvah.
3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the night, 3 hours tomorrow, you have a whole day.
9 hours, davening.
If somebody doesn't come to feeling, it doesn't come to Pnimi?
It doesn't. It's lacking pneumius.
But Sisit is a mitzvah, feeling is different.
Right. So tzitzis is to bring down the makif and the pnimi. And it actualizes itself through tefillin.
It's a combo.
That's why Talus and tefillin go together. Even put them in the same bag. What is my Talus and tefillin? Where's my Talus and tefillin, right? Because they're interconnected. Yeah. Well, tzitzis itself is the makif coming down into the pnimi, into the lamed beis and the sivas chachma.
Does come to
Yeah, but not as much as pnimius of tefillin that it affects mamish your head, your physical head, brain, and heart. Makif, no. Talus is more makif because talus, you surround the body. Talus cotton, you don't surround the body. I mean, you wear it, but it's not like talus. In the two levels of tzitzis, the outer, the big tzitzis, the talus is more makif than tzitzis, yeah.
Talus doesn't have anything to do with the chokmah?
Talus?
Yes.
Yeah, the lamed beis and the sivas chachma, the strings.
Not emotions.
What?
Not emotions. Not zah.
No. That's tefillin already. Bringing it down into the emotions. You have makif level, you bring it down into chochmah. That's wonderful. But until you feel it, it doesn't mean anything, because then it's not you. Pnimius means, what's the difference between pnimius and chitzain, internal and external? If something affects you, it's pnimius. If something affects you indirectly, it's chitzenius. Correct? Chitzenius can also have an effect upon a person, but not anywhere near pnimius, because chitzenius is basically for the show. And pnimius is because you mean it. It's you. So something is really valid and effective when it's you. And that's pnimius. If you don't feel it, learning itself is worthless. In fact, it's negative. If you learn with the intent of not doing, then you should have never been conceived, it says in the Gemara. So in order for something, means you feel it, it becomes one with you. And once it becomes one with you, it's not easy come, easy go. Garments, you can put on and off. Yeah? Pnimius, you can't put on and off. Once the food becomes part of you, you can't take it off. Because it's you.
You are what you eat.
Mitzvahs have to become that a person feels it. This is me. That's called feeling it. Otherwise, it only indirect affects you. That's why one of the Chedushim of the Alter Rebbe in Chabad, Chassidus, even today, I'm not knocking them in any way, they're great people, but by many Chassidim, the main thing is the garment, the dress, that's all that matters. As long as you wear the look, and dress the dress, it doesn't matter what goes on inside. As long as you wear the streimel and the bekisher, and the long this, then everything's good. Once a person takes that off, by those people, you went completely off the derech. You completely went off the derech. It doesn't matter anything else. Because that's Chagatz Chassidus. It's Midas. Now the Rebbe said the Panemius. The Panemius, it doesn't matter what you dress like.
Rabbi, don't you see in the shrine, you see one of the things that...
They didn't change their garments.
Saved Jewish people was
because Rabbi Yochanan says in the Gemara that he didn't call his garments, he called them his honor, Chabdusa. But clothes are important because that gives an external impression of what the person is. It's only an external impression. You can't really know. You can take the greatest tzaddik, and put him on a clown suit. That doesn't make him no more tzaddik. Correct? Not as drop less tzaddik. And you could take the lowest low life and put him on, take a guy and put him on streimel with the works. He's not going to, he maybe look, especially if he's Italian, he's going to look exactly like a Jew, but he's not. He's a guy. But it doesn't have an impact on the person.
It has an impact on the people who see the person.
Yes, but that's all chitzonius. It's not real. Because the same guy will go into the closet and change and come out, you see, it's not the same person. In Pneumius, it's the same person. So chitzonius, you can't have a guy will say, a guy goes out in shidduchim, he says, I can dress like a shlum, but if they don't like them, take me for who I am. That ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work. Why? What are you marrying the clothing? But it gives a first impression. But it's only an impression. It's not who you really are.
The Rambam was very, very strong about dress for Talmud Chacham, that if he wears a garment that's not...
The Gemara says that. The Rambam speaks it down from the Gemara.
Brings down the Gemara.
Yeah, okay.
So what does the Rambam say about dress for Talmud Chacham?
A Talmud Chacham has to give that people shouldn't speak bad about him.
Dressed like
About,
So you're saying that this is the level of Makifim coming down to the Likkutei
into Chachma.
into Chachma.
Yeah. That's what he says. Then I'm telling you, Tefillin brings it down into Midas. Because Tefillin is not only Chachma, it's also Das. That's why you have the 4 shins. Right. It has to come into a Pneumius.
But if it comes into Chachma, it eventually will come into Midas.
No, Seichel, sometimes Seichel doesn't give birth to Midas. You have a verstoppte cup, a verstoppte heart, You can have a blocked artery between the throat, the head and the heart, comes to the throat. It's called Timtum Alev. When you have a rock, and you drop water on the rock, it just drops off. It falls off. Right? It doesn't penetrate. Somebody has you can have brilliant chokhmah, but if you have a blocked heart, meaning lev ka'evan, the pasuk Hashem said, I'm going to remove the heart of stone So you have all the seichel coming in, and it's coming in, but it's falling off. It's not penetrating. So you can have brilliant seichel, but it doesn't mean it's coming to midas. And many times it won't. ודוד המלך היה מחבר תורה של מים מקודש ברוך שעימם שחשוש אינתה בחוכמה. Torah David HaMelech, what does it mean? He used to, the Gemara Medrash says, the Mechaber Torah Shel L'mayla Ma'Kodesh Baruch Hu, meaning he brought down Ashros Ernta B'Chachma, which is Eisik B'Torah Lishma, I'll call you right back. Torah Lishma, Mamshech Ashros Ernta Eisik Torah Lishma, and that's it. So in other words, we have to be mamshach, the makif, and that's why tzitzis is all the mitzvahs. What is the purpose of mitzvahs? Bringing makifim into premies. That's actually what tzitzis represents. Makifim into premies.